Hello, my name's Lotty, and I live here in my little cottage with a whole family of robots. And the robots are made from scrap, and we call them the birds. And one little bird, well, he gets bored very easily, and we like to find him lots of adventures. Would you like to hear a story about one of his adventures now? You would? That's great. I hope you're sitting comfortably. Here we go. Weebert was bored. Very, very bored. He lay on the kitchen table with his legs in the air like a big spoon. "I'm bored," he said, fiddling with a loose screw on his elbow. Weebert was the smallest of the birds, made from an old spy camera, a pair of opera glasses, and some copper wire for hair. He had a W on his chest and a habit of getting into trouble. Not on purpose, just by being Weebert. Albert the Bert looked up from polishing his compass buddy. "Why don't you tidy your drawer?" he suggested gently. "That's even more boring than being bored," Weebert groaned. Then his eyes lit up. "Let's play hide and seek." Albert smiled, the slow kind of smile that meant he was thinking something clever. All right, he said, but I get one special trick. Weebert didn't wait to ask what it was. He zoomed behind the flower pot made from a teacup and knocked over a teaspoon. Albert began counting. 1 Bert, 2 Berts, 3 Berts. He paused, gave a little shiver. His magic watch began to glow. Then, zap! Albert vanished. Weebert peeked out. Nobody was there. He must be terrible at hiding. He searched behind the old clock, where he sometimes had a snooze. He searched inside the cookie tin. He even checked my big comfy chair, where the dust bunnies lived. But Albert was gone. "Albert!" called Weebert. "Hello? Are you hiding in the jam jar cupboard again?" Then, zap! Albert reappeared, looking delighted. And standing next to him was, what do you think it was? A dinosaur. Weebert's mouth dropped open. "She's called Niblet," said Albert, puffing out his chest. "I brought her back from a tiny little time just before lunchtime. She followed the smell of cookies." Niblet blinked. She was green and stripy, with a tail longer than the kitchen table, and a cookie crumb stuck to her nose. Weebert took a tiny step backwards. She doesn't bite, does she?" "Only cookies," said Albert. Then Niblet squeaked, spun around, and vanished behind the toolbox. "Oh dear," said Albert. "She's shy." "She's fast," said Weebert. "We'd better find her before she tries to sit on your drawer again," said Albert. "It took hours to bend it back last time." So they began to look. They looked up high. They looked down low. They looked where only crumbs could go. They peeked inside the cookie tin, but Niblet wasn't hiding in. Just a few crumbs and a bent old spoon, and the smell of cookies gone too soon. They looked up high. They looked down low. They looked where only crumbs could go. They crept behind the old clock, Weebert's tiny wire and sock bed block. He kept buttons in a tin in there, but found no claws, no tail, no hair. They looked up high, they looked down low, they looked where only crumbs could go. They poked around a pile of springs and broken bits of robot things, but all they found was a squeaky cog and a picture of a bird dog. Weebert flopped dramatically beside the spanner drawer. She's gone, 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 gone back in time, or to the garden, or worse, the sock drawer with the spiders. Albert frowned. Or a little puff of steam came from behind the engineer's little set of drawers. Wait, said Weebert. That sounded like a crunch. They tiptoed closer. Then they saw her. Niblet, tail wagging, cheeks glowing, mouth full of cookie. She's in the cookie drawer again, laughed Weebert. Crumbs flew out of Niblet's mouth as she gave them both a big, crummy grin. Albert shook his head. She's worse than you. Weebert held out one last cookie. One more, Niblet. Niblet squeaked, nibbled it gently, then gave him a lick right across his coppery hair. She likes me, said Weebert, wobbling. Let's get her home, said Albert, before she eats the sugar bowl, the tea bags, or my left foot. He gave her a pat on the nose, gave a little shiver. His magic watch glowed, and zap, off they went. Weebert looked around at the mess. Tail prints on the table, crumbs in the sugar, and the cookie drawer hanging open at a wonky angle. He gave a big, happy sigh and stretched his arms. Oh, all that excitement's made me tired, he said, yawning. He headed sleepily towards his cosy bed inside the old clock. He stopped. His eyes narrowed. His nose twitched. I wonder, he said, if there are any cookies left. And off he tiptoed. Well, did you like that story? If you did, we've got lots more stories. I'd love to see you again soon. Bye.